thank you all so much for joining us. My name is Deanna Hansen. I'm a certified athletic therapist and the founder of Fluid Isometrics and Block Therapy. And I am being joined by my nephew, Quinn Castelane, the VP of Block Therapy and lead block therapist, and our very special guest, Helen Ronnenbergh. Helen is the first person to certify as a block therapy instructor in Australia, and she is paving the way for so many new people to find this modality and to join in and find transformations in their body. So Helen, thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm going to pass it over to you so you can share your story and have fun.
Thanks, Deanna. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Quinn. It's lovely to meet you today. So my story with block therapy began back in 2018 when I was given a block because I really wanted to find something that would solve my cellulite. I had tried so many different things and I just, nothing was working. I got the block and I tried it a couple of times and then I put it on the shelf for over a year because I kind of went, I didn't understand the whole concept behind it and I didn't really take the time to get into it. Like most of us do, when we buy any new equipment, we think this is going to be the magic pill and just it's standing there and looking pretty is going to help us. But unfortunately, that's not the reality. And I went down the traditional route. I bought an elliptic trainer, used that for a couple of times, and then it also started to gather dust. Eventually, I sold that. And in December of 2019, we went to Bali for a vacation. And of course, Bali is very hot, so you spend most of your time in shorts and in a bathing suit. And I was just so disappointed in the way my legs looked, and I just felt bad. So when New Year came around, I'd made a commitment that 2020 was the year that I was going to fix my legs because I so badly wanted to have, I've never had supermodel legs and that's okay, but I just wanted them to look better than what they were because I knew that I could. I'm not overweight or anything. So why were my legs so fat in comparison to the rest of my body and so almost deformed? And so I committed and I started doing Pilates 4 times a week. I didn't even take a break after we came back from vacation. I went straight in and did my Pilates 4 times a week. And there were some changes, but nothing that I could say was significant. And lo and behold, March came along and Pilates no longer became an option because all the studios closed. And my husband jokingly said, well, maybe you should try that expensive ornament you bought because apparently that's going to change everything for you. And seeing that we had this, the wonderful starter program, I decided to dive in and start doing it. So lo and behold, not even a month later, my legs had changed so much in, that short amount of time that they hadn't anything that I'd ever tried. But there were more significant changes. Now, one of the biggest significant changes was to my hip. Now, back in 96, I did the strangest thing. I leaned over to get a bowl out of a kitchen cabinet, one that was quite low. And as I did that, I sneezed. And it jolted my body so much that I actually passed out from the pain. And it just shifted my whole hip totally out of alignment. And that kind of like started a chain of chronic illness of, my hip. It would be fine for a while and then it would go out again. And then I would have to go back to chiros and acupunctures and we do, osteos and we do all the those modalities and it would get better again and off I'd go. And it was fine for quite a few years. And we went on holiday in Florida to Destin. And I sound like I almost rusted because I went into the ocean. My kids were quite small and I was playing with them in the surf. And as I turned around to come out, it's like my legs stopped moving. And my husband actually had to help me to get me back to the hotel room because I just couldn't walk. And we were in the car and eventually we had to go home because, another holiday ruined because Mom's hip was bad. And this continued and, we went once to South Africa on vacation and the same thing happened. I twisted, I did something not even, mildly strange and my hip went out and I spent, 3 days on the couch just in pain. And eventually you just get used to it. It's like you just live around your aches and your pains. So I was so used to getting out of bed every morning and really having to be careful how I get up, and then just move slowly so that I can kind of like warm my hip up before I go to the bathroom. And I woke up in April and I thought, oh my God, I just got up and went to the bathroom. And for the first time in nearly 20 years, I didn't have an issue. I didn't have to warm my hip up. I didn't have to be careful when I walked. It was just incredible. And that to me was the bigger change that I had. And then I started kind of taking note of the other things that were working better in my body. Like I could move my arms again in a much easier way. When I was, from seated, standing up was so much easier. And then I realized that there was something more to block therapy than just, the vanity part of having nice legs or looking good. And that's when I started delving in deeper, and I just started doing block therapy every day, because at that same time I lost my contract. I'm a contract worker, and with everything closing down, everybody then decided, well, that's it, the project's also shut. So we were stuck at home. We couldn't go anywhere, and both my husband and my daughter were still working, so it was just me at home. So rather than sitting in front of telly every day just doing nothing, I dove into block therapy, and I would just do it. And I actually started realizing that I was pretty calm through everything, and it was everything that was going on. And late in May, I think I decided that I maybe I should bring this to Australia. So I became an affiliate, but I also then realized that same as me, I had the block for so long, but I didn't do anything, that we needed somebody here in Australia that would actually be able to speak to the Australians and to actually physically show them what the block is and how it works and all of that. And the pathway to do that was to become an instructor. And so I went down that route, and it's just been so fulfilling. And I'm just so glad to be able to be the one that is going to hold the, to bring block therapy to Australians, because it's such a simple practice, and it's just so easy for just about everybody to use. And it's so safe that, there's no reason why there shouldn't be a block in every home in Australia. So that's my journey. And now I'm busy doing my studies to be a therapist. So, and that's a journey in itself, and just so fulfilling as well, working with Deanna, looking at people and how we can help people to live a better life.
Thank you so much, Helen. So you actually have your husband to thank for this.
Yes, because he really made me feel bad about buying this, this wonderful ornament. And of course now he's also blocking, which is great. So most evenings we spend half an hour or an hour, whatever we decide, and do our block therapy together, which is lovely.
Oh, that's so great. And I just love this, because like everybody that finds us, people start for some reason. And for some people, it's cellulite, weight loss, anti-aging. For other people, it's years of chronic pain, disease, anxiety, whatever it is that brings you. It's so nice to hear that when you dive in, you start experiencing these other profound changes as well. And that's the real magic I feel behind this practice. Is it's not just to get you out of one thing. You dive in and you start realizing the profound nature of our body and the capacity to heal on all these levels. And I just want to share a little bit about cellulite and why this is so, in fact, beneficial. The fascia is absolutely ingenious in its design. It's here to support and protect us. And one of the things that we as conscious humans need to do is understand how to support our cellular alignment. But because we haven't been given this instruction, we simply allow gravity body to manipulate us. We're dominant on one side, so we fall over, we start compressing and collapsing, and we become off balance. So what the fascia will do is it will grip and adhere to bone with that 2,000 pound per square inch force. That's what fascia does. It's gripping to bone, though, to try to keep us upright. So it's really responding to our unconscious nature of tipping over. And as everything in nature flows, it does so in a wave or spiral pattern. So those grips are little twists, and then they hook onto bone. So that's what creates the dimples. But more importantly, that also blocks blood and oxygen flow to cells on the other side. And so as you go through this process, if that happens to be the reason that brings you here, the other beautiful part, is Helen so beautifully shared, is that you start seeing other changes to long-term pains that may have been accumulating in your body as well. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I just have to say how much I absolutely enjoy spending time with you going through this assessment training. You are such the perfect person to be the one to bring this into an entirely different country, continent, and to share it with your people. I agree, you need to have somebody physically there to really open doors and to get a bit of a wave going. And then when that happens, then it's a different situation, and there will be an ease of bringing more to the table. But you're the one that's walking that first line, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. So thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey. And Quinn, do you have anything to chime into here?
Nothing really in particular. I think you explained cellulite really well, and that's exactly it. Like, everybody gets in for their own reason, and some people will stick to it just being a specific reason. As I mentioned, like, it could be cellulite, it could be chronic pain, but you are going to notice different changes throughout your body. Like even our journey, or my journey, like, I started with the intention of helping with my bodybuilding. Now I'm on like a completely different path. This has helped me with a myriad of issues. So, and it still surprises me to this day on what it can do, because it's amazing how fast people can forget. That's something I've realized. So, honestly, I don't have too much to add. I think this has been great so far, but I'm just going to check to see if there's any questions. Daviscoda says, "Hey guys, hello, welcome to the call." And again, if anybody has any questions, just leave them in the chat below, and we will address those live on the call.
So Helen, regarding your emotional state, this whole challenging time that we're all living through right now, have you found this to be of any benefit to coping with the stresses that come at you at this time?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of like that place when you are on the block and you're breathing diaphragmatically. And, even if you're not doing a class, sometimes how I normally process stress and things like that, I just start sleeping really badly. And to me, the most wonderful thing was just to take my block at night and just to put it by my head and just to lie on it and just feel the adhesions in your skull, because it's amazing, how I guess how bumpy our skulls are. And just doing that action is just so calming, connecting with our breath. And that's probably the missing link to a lot of modalities, I think, out there, is that we aren't. This is the first time that I've learned how to breathe properly. And we've done yoga and meditation, and everybody says deep breathing in and out, but nobody actually specifies how important the exhalation is, and where that is so integral to block therapy. So just getting out all those emotions and all that negative stuff out of your body is so almost more important than taking that deep breath in. And I think just having that missing link has been phenomenal in calming our nerves, getting all that cortisol out of it, because, we've got all the stress going on. So most of us have got heaps of cortisol running around in our bodies right now. So absolutely.
Wonderful. And to add to that as well, because again, that fascia is going to grip with that 2,000 pound per square inch force. If we aren't conscious breathers from the get-go, and we haven't, again, been trained to be conscious breathers. So most of us have a very weak foundation for the rib cage, which is the diaphragm. So if we haven't been exercising that properly, it becomes a weak foundation for the weight of the rib cage, the head, the shoulders and arms to collapse in on. And then we adhere in whatever alignment we're in with that amazing force. So even if you simply start the practice of breathing techniques from that contracted space, you can strengthen the diaphragm to the capacity that you have available to you. But what we are also doing with block therapy is we're adding more of that diaphragm to work on your behalf. And ultimately, however many trillions of cells there are in the body, it is the diaphragm muscle that is designed to move the blood and oxygen to every one of those trillions of cells. So if we're collapsed and we're working this breath, but we're not open, we aren't giving all of the cells in the body the food that they need. And we're also not able to clean out the byproducts of functioning. Every cell has exhaust. When it does its job, there's always waste that comes out. And then, of course, emotional negativity, we're all pulling it in all the time. If we're not able to breathe and exhale fully, then that stores in the body, and the magnetics get us connected to those negative emotional frequencies. So to be able to tap in and not only feed, but to clean the cells and the tissue completely and fluidly lifelong really does keep our body in a state of balance and openness so that we have optimal flow. And as long as there's flow, really we shouldn't be experiencing anything negative. The reality is we have a lot of blocks in the body, but this is that process. So it's always so much fun to unravel. I'm 20 years into this process, and there's no shortage of adhesions left for me to work through in my body. But for the amount I've come in 20 years, I'm so excited to see another 10 years where things will be and how much better I'll feel. And that's just something that I just love sharing with people, because the journey never ends. And it's not even about an end. It's about being on that path. And I think once we know we have a path that's working for us, the fear can be taken out of the pain-fear cycle. That equation doesn't have to lock us into anything negative. We can see that, yeah, I have a long way to go, but I also trust the process. And now I trust my body. And for me, that was a huge thing, to actually learn to trust my body. I used to not trust it at all, because when I was 50 pounds overweight, I was doing what I was taught. I was just like you, Helen, working hard, exercising a ton, doing all the things that I was trained to do as an athletic therapist, but my body wasn't responding. So then you get a very disconnected sense of yourself and of who you are, because why isn't this working? I see other people in the gym doing exactly what I'm doing, and they're toned and fit, but here I'm doing it and I'm getting bigger and more compressed and more toxic. And so I was so pleased to have tapped into this, because now the trust is there. So I'm never worried about what's going to come up, because I always know that I have a path to follow to take me to another place in my own body. Anything there?
I think that's so important as well. Sorry, but because we kind of get told to be okay with the fact that, we've got fatty legs or, fatty knees, I used to call them, because that's the most wonderful thing. After I saw my knees for the first time in years and years, but actually knowing that there's a cause, and my twisted hip was causing so much more problems in my body than I could ever have imagined, or that anyone had ever explained except you, Deanna. And that gives you power, because you know what the cause for the problem is.
Wonderful. And sorry, Quinn, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, that's such an intimidating thing, is to believe, is for people to tell you that you can't heal yourself, or that you need something outside of you to heal yourself. That's the most fearful, intimidating thing anybody can ever really hear. It's like, you can't help yourself. You feel helpless. You don't really know what to do. But it's so much different with this practice, because you mentioned, Helen, about your hip causing a lot of other issues in your body. And for myself, I have a very similar issue, which was caused from bodybuilding, and it's my left psoas. And that's been pulling, and it's probably my left ankle, because there was a major fracture there when I was younger. But all of these things have caused issues all the way up the chain. As soon as I addressed that one, almost before, I'm cutting myself off, which is funny, but if I have an issue in my shoulder or my pec or my neck, I'm still never going to start there. I'm always going to start with my major cause site. So I'm going to start with the belly, but the psoas is right in there. Then I'll flip the block to its side. I'll get deep into my left psoas. I'll release it. And immediately I can start feeling a shift and a change all the way up and down the chain. That's for me. And of course we need to start with the belly, but then the foundation up. But the more you get in tune with your body, you find where those major cause sites are. And that's why we're all so unique. And that's what I love so much about Block. It's always putting the power and control in your hands. Sure, we have dozens and dozens and dozens of videos and classes to follow, but ultimately you're still the one in control. And you can work in any manner that you'd like. And you mentioned like putting the block behind your neck when you're going to bed. I just started doing that. Like, it's interesting because I stopped doing that for a while. Then I started doing that because I'm working a lot on my vision and already noticing huge improvements with my vision just from doing that. Deanna's also helping me out a lot with that. I'm fortunate to have Deanna literally in the same building. So she's able to work on my eye, but I'm in front of a computer for a very long time every single day. And it gets really taxing on the eyes. So like even vision, like the whole conversation around vision is so interesting to me because first off, I just feel a release of pressure, but with that pressure release, it's already started to improve my vision. So it's interesting because I want to talk to more people, more optometrists about this to see like, what's the science behind it? How can we improve vision through releasing the fascia? So I think we're getting to that stage now where we're getting more doctors and scientific proof to back us all up, because we already have the proof from the results. Our community's the proof, which is amazing. But there's also science that people want to see the actual results. So we're kind of just getting to that phase right now, which is extremely exciting. But yeah, I'm going to just quickly read off a couple comments here. So Deb said, "Hi, Quinn and Deanna, Block has kept me centered during the pandemic." Awesome, because it has kept me centered too. It's amazing because you're all over the map with your head. With the pandemic, you hear a good thing, a bad thing, a bad thing, a good thing. You're not sure what's going on. So very good to hear that. This is a great question. I have pain in lots of places. Should I work everything every day with my Block? ?
I'll take that one. Thank you for asking. So with our starter program, we have it designed so that we always start in the core and the rib cage in the body, because the very first thing we want to make sure is that you start to engage that diaphragmatic breath. Because when you start engaging that, everything else you do is going to be that much more effective. For example, if you've never blocked before and you put the block under your calf and you sit there for 20 minutes, but you're not breathing properly, you're not really sending that much oxygen to that area. So you'll still get some benefit, but it becomes exponential when we can tap in the connection between the area that we're blocking with the diaphragm. Then we go into the lower body, and then we go into the head and neck. And we always start in the starter program from the center down toward the extremities. And then once you finish that starter program, which basically teaches you how to use the block safely throughout your whole body, how to understand the basic foundations in the body, then we get into the specifics. So please, if you would like, you can certainly reach out to me either in our private Facebook community, Block Therapy Community on Facebook, or you can send me a personal email at deanna@fluidisometrics.com and share with me some more detail about your situation. And I'd be happy to give you very specific guidance to what you need to do. Or if you're in Australia and you want to talk directly to Helen, I can tell you right now, she is amazing at assessing. We're working together, and she has quite the amazing eye to see what's going on in the body. So the assessments are really where, if you're needing that additional attention, we do assessments. So you send in the photos, and then we can identify those specific cause sites. Because to just block all over the body, you're still going to get benefit, but we can make it really efficient for you so that depending on your top concerns and what we see, we can guide you to the most efficient releases so that your body really will respond in the fastest way. Even, for example, and I can't remember, Quinn, if you mentioned this or Helen, but even migraines. the lower legs and feet are going to definitely be a factor, because this is where they are the furthest from the engine. So the fascia is the most frozen in the calves and feet. So you can work a ton up here if you have headaches, but as soon as you start walking, the fascia pattern that is connected in those lower legs is going to pull you back in, pull you forward, and keep that blockage going on up to the head. So understanding how to read the body is part of the assessment process, and we can just make things very efficient for you so that you're not running in circles, because that can happen too. And I mean, for me, I mean, you know, I made this up, but I still do the wrong things because, you know, if something's bugging me, I still want to just go and lie in the pain, and I know better, but we're human, right? Like we want to treat what hurts, but when we treat what hurts, we're missing the boat, because we want to treat the cause of the hurt, and they're usually at a distance from each other. Not that we don't ever want to treat the area of pain, but if that's all we do, we're going to be still caught in that cycle of pain until we can really look at that full body and see where we need to go with that.
100%. Absolutely. And I still get caught in that too. We're all human, right? It's funny. And the running in circles, it's so true, because I don't get as much like acute pain or just pain that surfaces as often now, because I don't work out to the same intensity as I used to. So that was more so driving my pain, which is very ironic. But yeah, there's times where if you're in a lot of pain and you know you need to work in that painful area, sure, but you still have to play ping pong with the cause site and the pain site. And maybe you find a cause site for the pain, and you might even literally feel where, like, what's tugging on your neck, or what's tugging on your trap or your hip. And sometimes you can literally feel that, which is insane. And when you do that, that's when you want to play ping pong. That's what Deanna taught me a long time ago, is play around with going back and forth to the cause and the pain site. And you'll notice like really fast changes. And then to add another layer of complexity, there's not always just one cause site. But if you found one of the cause sites, spend time there and then go to the pain. But explore, have fun with this, because I've been where you are, Michelle, with having pain in a lot of areas, and you don't really know what to do. You feel a little lost. You're like, well, my foot hurts, and the back of my knee and my hip and my back and my upper back, my neck, and then you get overwhelmed. So that's where it comes back down to simplifying everything and working from your breath, but then your foundation up, just like as Deanna was mentioning. And we have a lot of programs that literally address it from that perspective, so we don't keep running around in circles.
Thanks, Quinn. Awesome explanation. Helen, now that you're working with patients yourself, or students, whatever it is that you call them at this time, do you have any really fun things you'd like to share? Some things that you've seen and that you've learned working with other people?
Yeah, I think I have one client who sent me the photographs. She really struggled on the block. And I think that's also another way that's nice when you do have an instructor, you know, you're working with an instructor, is you have that support where you can just directly ask them, I'm not sure about this, or I'm really struggling with this position. Can you help me? Anyway, I really guided through her. She did the 21-day leg program, which is quite a challenging program, because so many of our problems are there. So we've got to kind of, like, some people have to take it really, really slow. So we worked through it in 21 days, or maybe just, I think probably 23 days, because some of the hour-and-a-half classes she had to split. And she did the before images. And when she sent me her after images, she said, look, I don't really think that, there's been much of a change, but, let me know. And oh my God, when I put the photos together, it was like totally a different person. And I texted her back like, LOL, there's no changes. And she came back and said, oh my God, like the changes were so pronounced. But because we see ourselves every single day and we don't have those before images, we really need to have that so we can see what the changes are. Like, her legs had started to change. She had, she's got the beginnings of a dowager hump, and that's starting to dissipate. Her shoulders were so crooked or, so skew like that. And they were leveling out. Just so many changes. Her arms weren't so far back. And when you know how to look at your body in the way that we look at our, the images and the photos, you're not as embarrassed, because I know for myself it was really challenging to have those photographs taken, because you've only got your bikini or very little clothes on, and it's very confronting for all of us, because we're so critical. Most of us are very critical about the way we look, and that's the beauty of looking at your photos so that you can see what the changes are. I almost think that we kind of have to do a whole body, what would you call it? I can't think of the word now, but, measure how your arms are moving, your neck is moving, your hips are moving, your legs are moving, your feet are feeling, before we start doing block therapy, so that, a month or 2 months down the track, you can actually keep track of how much better you start to feel.
And I think too, I mean, I've had that experience countless times where people don't think that they've gone through change, and then here's the photo. So thank goodness for the photos. But another thing I find interesting too is if people come in with a specific thing, like let's say cellulite is your initial reason for coming into this. And so, they go through a process, and because we are so critical, if we don't see change specific with that, what I get a lot, well, my cellulite isn't better, but I'm sleeping better. I have more energy. I'm able to walk up the stairs without pain and so people sometimes don't equate change because they're just looking for that one thing that they came in for. And yet there's all these other changes happening. And sometimes, I mean, there's layers and layers and layers of adhesion and frozen fascia that we have to work through. So, and what is so exciting in the community too, is so many people will do 1 or 3 classes and they'll share like, wow, like after just one class, I can't believe how much taller I feel, how much deeper my breath is. So there's a lot of that happens. But then if you're very focused on just one change, and that one change might not be the thing that's happening right away, sometimes people get lost in that focus and don't realize all these other benefits that are part of that change. And there's just a process depending on what we're starting with. I mean, some people are starting younger with, just a few little issues. And some people are starting when they're 60 and 70 years old, and they might be really toxic because they've had a lot of meds they've taken through the years, and they've had a lot of trauma and injuries and emotional issues. What was really so impactful is we see a lot of kids now with scoliosis. And one of my favorites is this little 6-year-old named Zenon. And he came in with a really significant scoliosis. And we have shared these on our social media as well as in our group. So they wanted to put him in a brace for 16 or 18 hours a day, and then eventually fuse his spine. And it's been 9 weeks now. And it almost looks like he didn't have a problem to begin with. So when we start young, it's incredible how quickly we change. When we're older, change will still happen and change will be continual, but we do have to realize we've accumulated, like I'm 51, I've accumulated 51 years of everything I've ever encountered. The fascia is a sponge. We absorb it all, whether it's toxic environments, toxic people, accumulated injuries and potential surgeries. And then, of course, all of our unconscious habits that we continue to draw into the body, and the fascia has to respond to that. So, we are this incredible, incredible body that is here to deliver our deeper insights into the world. And it is through the space that is supposed to be in the tissue that we can really be the best versions of ourselves to bring grace and light into the world. But when we're dense and we're compressed, that space is blocked. So we don't feel that same connection to our higher selves and to our abilities to be creative and to share our insights with the world. So it's so impactful when we start diving in and all the profound changes that we can feel. So how are we doing there, Quinn? Any other questions for Helen right now?
Well, hey, that was just very well said, because that's so true to me as well. Like when I feel compressed, I don't feel as connected. I feel a little lost at times. And then what you do when you feel lost, you jump on your block. Like it's never let me down. And I'm not just, again, I don't want to say that as like a cliche or just like to bump up block therapy like crazy. But seriously, whenever I'm either in like a state of anxiety and fear or anything really, I always go to the block, and it seriously never let me down. And that's even like what this one lady said earlier. Deb, she said, this has kept her centered during the pandemic. Do you know how amazing that is? Like, seriously, this is like the most horrifying time within however many years, and this has kept her centered. And then, Helen, I just wanted to touch on the whole like self-image thing and taking the photos, because I think that's the biggest tell is always photos, but also you can like write in your journal, like, how do you feel? Do like a 1 out of 10. How's my mental state? How's my anxiety? How's my range of motion? How's this? Do a 1 out of 10 rating and be very honest with yourself. Give the starter program, do 9 days, literally just 9 days, and see how you feel. And then imagine doing a 21-day program in the member site with all these more advanced classes and see how you feel. But if people need to take those photos for themselves, like, only share them with us, your before and afters, if you want to, but take them for yourself, because that's when you're going to see the change. And for sure, self-image is a thing. Like, I'm sure everybody still has it. A lot of people say I have a great physique, but there's times where I've literally felt the opposite, and that's called body dysmorphia. So people have to understand that's a real thing, and it's with majority of people. So just understand it's a thing, but just take those photos, hide them away, put them in a hidden folder on your phone or something, or on your computer. And then after 9 days, just take a quick peek and compare them. You're going to see some sort of change. And if you don't see the change, you can send them privately to Deanna, and she will tell you what you've changed. Because like Helen, you're going through the assessment process with Deanna right now. It's an amazing experience, because I've always said Deanna has this X-ray vision that people can't see. And it's amazing because Deanna can still see things on my body that I can't really see on my body. And I'm like, how is it still that advanced? And I'm like, I guess she developed this. So it makes a lot of sense. But it's really cool to see someone like you, Helen, and other instructors becoming therapists and therapists developing Deanna's vision of the body and being able to see these little things, because that's super important for people. Like for me, 7 years ago, that's really important. Deanna was able to say, like, you made massive change, dude. And I'm like, oh, you're right. But I was just looking for one thing to improve. So again, it's the overall full body effect and change. That's why people have to understand how important fascia is. It's a complete netting of the entire body. We're changing everything. If you think you're just going to change your hip, you're going to be moving things into a better alignment throughout your entire body. And I think that's the magic of block therapy, but that's also just the magic of fascia decompression.
Thanks, Quinn. Very well said. Helen, so you are the trailblazer in Australia. Can you share some of the things that you're doing to get the word out?
So I have been talking to a lot of people, of chiropractors here in Australia. I'm also been featured in a couple of TV series here. It's all online TV, so that's coming up. That we're going to probably see it just before Christmas. It'll come up, and really just talking to a lot of people and showing them what the possibilities are. Because, you know, like Quinn was saying with the images, it's like back in the 90s, we used to have images where you'd stare at them and then all of a sudden you'd see the actual image that was in, and it just looks all like blurry and things like that. And when you become a therapist, that's what you start being able to see when you look at photos, which is just such a blessing to be able to do. And to be working with Deanna.
Yeah, and I have to say, you are just phenomenal at seeing things already. And that's what's so exciting for me, is to see that, you know, I mean, I feel very blessed that this was given to me to share, but it's been given me to share, to teach others to do. And you are seeing it. And I can see when you're assessing these bodies, like that, your X-ray vision is getting really clear. So I'm very excited, and you just so represent health. I am so excited that you are the trailblazer and you are knocking on people's doors and you're getting them to listen and pay attention, because I do believe this is something very impactful that so many people need to have, and especially today, because it connects us to that sense of calm within, so that we can travel through this time and we can make the best choices, and we can discern truth from negative information, and we can feel for ourselves what makes sense and what is accurate. So again, I can't thank you enough for taking on this massive undertaking of wanting to be the first person in a whole new area of the world, and you are doing it. So that takes a lot of guts, and I'm so very impressed with everything that you're doing.
Thank you. Thanks so much. It's just such an honor to be working with you and to be able to bring Block Therapy. So I also thank you for your faith in me to be the trailblazer over here.
It doesn't take faith. You're doing it. I'm already seeing what you're doing. You're getting people to this, and people are listening, and you are sharing, and you're getting it out there. So I'm impressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not easy what we're doing, and that's also what makes it really fun, but also really rewarding at the same time, because our intent is just to simply help people in any way possible. And if we can help even just one person, like even to us, that's amazing. But we've developed this whole online system so that we can literally help as many people as we can. And yeah, again, Helen, like, this is so cool that you're going through this experience with Deanna, and just like enjoy that process, because that was super cool and fun for me as well. Because Deanna, like, we would look at assessment photos and she's like, okay, well, what's the cause site for here? And I'm just like, it's the calf. She's like, no, it was the foot. And I'm like, I tried my best. But it's going to be like that, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm super pumped that you're here. Australia is amazing. When the world opens up, I've always wanted to go to Australia. So I'll be ringing your phone there, and we'll have to meet up or something.
Yeah, for you, for sure.
But other than that, there's no more comments, just people saying thank you. But yeah, any other last questions, Dee or Helen?
Helen, any last bits of wisdom you'd love to share with your community, with the people listening? How can we find you?
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest things is like almost take up the challenge to have a look at this piece of block with some very strange ways to use it, and what a phenomenal change it can make to everybody's bodies and to your well-being, your mental state as well. One of the kind of things, like when you do something, because it's just so not what everybody's used to, one of the things that I kind of wanted to prove that, well, this piece of block's not going to work, and it's so worked, and in so many levels that I couldn't have even imagined when I started block therapy. And it's not a hard practice to do. So come and find out about it. At least have a conversation with me about it at all. And if that's the only thing you can do, read some of the other fascia, or watch some of the other fascia master videos, and see what other people are saying too. It's really phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. And all of Helen's links are in this chat. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, all of her links are going to be below, so you can reach out to Helen directly. You can check out her website, her Facebook page, or Instagram profile. So yeah, anybody in Australia or around there, reach out to Helen, because she will take incredible care of you. So that's all I have to share. Deanna?
I just want to thank you once again, Helen. And I absolutely agree. If you are in that area, Helen is the go-to person. I can't say enough good things about what you're doing and what you're learning and how you're helping people. So just massive applause to you and for taking on this role. Appreciate you so much. And thank you all for joining us today. I know it's it's always exciting to know that we're impacting people who are listening and giving people a bit of hope that there's an ability to take control of your health and your well-being and make some really positive changes in your life. So thank you all so much for listening.
All right. Well, that's everything. All right. Have an awesome evening. This will be on the YouTube channel, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.